So I'm jumping back to the. I thought I was back at the. Now, three different pages.
He's looking at porn, guys.
Hey, you know what?
Lex Steele.
He's looking at wealthy billionaire stepdad stuff.
Elon Musk.
That's a good one.
I mean, I guess we could look at. I mean, but if we're looking at heroes or just
billionaires, let's be honest. Billionaire. As a billionaire, none of them are heroes.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, I guess we could dive into the other side of it. Let's look at Wilson Fisk.
Ooh, all right, nice.
Because it's like you've got, according to the list, he's richer than Reed Richards.
He's richer than the Punisher, which we're going to have to set as our baseline for everything. Which is an offline conversation.
On a card set published specifically by this podcast.
Yes.
One of those little stats is, it's like energy projection, fighting ability, bank account,
billionaire status. Punisher's at 0.
Yeah, he's there like, well, I've got, he's up at that $10 space.
I've got a 0 because of my 2 intelligence.
Bullets are cheap, guys.
I can't manage money well.
Bullets are cheap.
Well, bullets are cheap, but also like, I mean,
only in the U.S.
Even if he just robbed the crooks he's killing, like at least he'd be like, well, I'll take this bag of money back to my lair.
That is very true.
Oh, yeah. So you're just a thief now? No.
It's to fund my one-man war on crime.
Where
I'm a people person.
So let's talk about the man who's apparently, according to this article from CBR, Wilson Fisk is worth $40 billion compared to Reed Richards' 12. So Reed probably more, just not. I mean, when I saw that, I thought that was surprising, but then again, like it's Kingpin. He's greedy. He's like, no, I want more money. Whereas Reed might have just been like, just get enough to keep the building open. I don't know. Leave me alone. I'm Reed Richards. Whee! Whereas
to accidentally become a villain in every other thing I invent.
Well, let's look at it sort of, I guess, realistically speaking. Reed Richards builds things that cost billions or millions. Wilson built a tower, and that's about it. All the rest of his money is basically coming into him. He's not spending a ton. I'm sure he doesn't pay attention very well. So you got to look at like a spaceship to wherever the next universe is for Reed. It's going to be $1 billion venture. So he's not liquid or sitting on that amount of money at any given time.
That's true. And I mean, Fisk has just got like the Fisk University that's bilking people for money. He's got the Fisk Casino that's bilking people for money.
Fisk Steaks.
Yeah, he's like Fisk Steaks, Fisk, anything you can slap your name on. Make New York great again, hats that he's selling to, like that type of thing. Any kind of crooked scheme.
Sleepy SpiderMan. Don't forget about Sleepy SpiderMan. Just doesn't have the energy to keep up with crime anymore.
You mean Sleepy Jonah, the previous mayor who he took power from. Sleepy Jonah. I'm gonna run this city the way it should be run.
Sleepy Jonah in the pocket of big newspaper.
I got the best ideas for New York.
Well, I mean, yeah. So we're looking at Kingpin, and I mean, we're assuming none of his money came. I don't know. He might be the only person who was a bootstrap guy from this list.
But this is back to the idea of Pablo of using someone else's bootstraps to strangle them, and then he did pull someone up by their bootstraps to get his money.
Well, at least he knows what bootstrap is. I think from the other billionaires who use the phrase unknowingly.
Fair enough.
Are there any heroes who came from nothing?
To be billionaires? I don't think so.
To be billionaires?
I don't think there's any villains other than Fisk. I think Penguin's a millionaire.
Yeah, I mean, Penguin came from money. The Cobblepots are well established in Gotham. As far as like,
did they disown him though?
They did, but because it was family money, he did end up getting it back. Like he
killed them and got it back.
He got his estate back, and then also through his nefarious means built up more money, and then you combine the two to an even bigger pile of money. Okay. Technically speaking, we do have a moment where Peter Parker does become, I don't think a billionaire, but definitely, I don't know, because there was a short time where Peter Parker had Parker Industries, where he did, and he did some more philanthropic stuff, and he did some beneficial stuff, but it was only after he was controlled by Otto Octavius to build this empire, and then they switched bodies, and so he didn't build it up himself. He was simply put in the position to be the head of the company at that point. So I'm trying to think of any other like self-made billionaires.
Like, I
That
guess. Sorry, go ahead.
I just say that he's the closest I could think of, but I don't even know if he would have been in the he would have been the Carol Ferris of like at least $1 billion.
Yeah.
But even that seems, and then that's also like one thing too to think about is their net worth. Like, oh, they're worth this much because the company's worth this much, or are we talking about this is how much they have in a bank in the Cayman Islands? Like, where are we drawing the line?
So Reed Richards actually, he didn't really come from money. So maybe him, but look where that gets you.
Wait, where did he come from?
Well, the problem is,
he went to like an Ivy League school and stuff too.
Yes, he did. And so that's the thing of like, even if he was there on a scholarship, you still have his whiteness propelling him forward, and the time period. So yeah, that's kind of that.
It's fair.
Yeah. I'm trying to think back because it's like we have to look at the original iteration, and he was just well off to begin with, I guess, no matter what.
He was wealthy.
Generic 60s white wealthy.
He had that, that mediocre white man power and just ran with it. And
I think it's a couple $1 million start.
Yeah.
I like to think that he's actually not the smartest man in the universe, but he just thinks he is, and because he's a white guy, nobody ever like tells him no. He just like keeps rolling with it. Like, now I'll invent pillows that can solve world hunger. Yeah, Reed, sure, it's a great idea. It's definitely gonna work.
If I built the towers, isn't it to hear the poor people yell at him? You're not that smart.
Fuck you. I'll Illuminati your ass.
Well, while we're looking at Fist, since you brought him up, I mean, where do we, if we had to assume, I mean, where do we think most of this billions come from, though? Because I feel like as a criminal, it should be subject to any type of IRS audit / extradition.
I mean, it's
like he can't be sitting on billions as a quote unquote kingpin.
Well, I mean, it's much like another Mad King. It's just a matter of the perception of stuff. You cover yourself with like, oh no, this is a legitimate construction company. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know why you think just because there's so many bodies found in our foundations, this is a legitimate business. And
it's human built.
It's human built, but like, yeah, exactly. That's what we build our mortar out of. Don't you know that's the best mortar there is around? Get out of here.
You say you want jobs.
Yeah. And so I mean, he has those shell companies to like prop it up. And like, that's why he's able to strut around town as like, oh, he's the professional Wilson Fisk. There's a really great issue in Ultimate Spider-Man where it's like, Peter Parker's like, essentially, how can we allow this guy, like he was filmed murdering someone, but because the tape was gained illegally, they're letting him free. It's like, but we saw him kill someone, and like,
that ain't the law, buddy.
Exactly. And so like this whole Peter has this like real confrontation with a teacher and just like leaves, and he's just like, no, this is ridiculous. Like, I can't sit here and listen to your bullshit. And it's a fair point. Is it like, oh, if as long as you maintain that facade of legality, you're fine. And he's able to do that. And that's America.
Has there ever been an issue / I don't know, episode or something where he hires Daredevil to protect him as a slap in the face?
No, because I mean, I'm sure there's probably a time where he dressed someone up as Daredevil and had him.
Did he hire the heroes for hire?
God, I feel like no, he didn't. I don't know. That's a really good question. I do know that Dr. Doom hired Luke Cage at one point and then stiffed him on the bill, so Luke Cage went to Latveria and chased him down for his like $200 bill. There is that story.
That's
the greatest scene in comic books history.
More money, yeah, bitch.
That's basically, I believe, what he said.
Because that would be awesome if you were to just like buy the building or buy them out somehow to force them to represent him.
I mean, I feel like it's probably a story that's been done because it's a good
It
one.
has to be, yeah.
Yeah, like it's someone would have had to have done this. It's too good not to have. Let me see.
If there's a comic writer reading, this hasn't been comic writer listening, and this hasn't been done. Don't steal it. It's ours.
Patent pending. Patent pending.
That's how we're gonna make our billions.
Yeah.
Giving away free stories.
Perfect.
I only see profit from here on out.
Hey man, it wasn't that Movie Pass's entire deal?
Yeah, look where they're at today. Just killing
Exactly. They were rich for 10 minutes.
I don't even think they were rich for that long. I think they started bleeding money as soon as the idea came out of their head.
They were solvent for 10 minutes.
I don't know how they got so many people to jump on that board. This is a brilliant idea that'll never work. Well, I mean, talking about Doom, do you want to jump into Doom, Pat?
I mean, no one jumps into Doom. Doom jumps into you.
What does
So
that even
I think
mean?
we need to establish
What
that.
the hell does that even mean?
It doesn't matter because Doom said it. Well,
Did
And
you
he
say
said
it, or
it-
did you just say it?
And he said it in all capitals. That's the better part. That's
yes.
That-
And he definitely shook his fist at the sky when he said Doom. This happened. So, in any event, Dr. Doom, net worth, at least on this magical list, is somewhere near $100 billion. It is all tied to his rulership of Latveria and his patents for his many, many, many secondary scientific inventions that always take a backseat to Reed Richards, which upset him so much.
So who's paying top dollar for his shitty patent when they can get Reed Richards?
People can't afford Reed Richards.
He's the Hydrox of science.
Yeah, that's right.
Hydrox came first.
Sure,
He's the Samsung. He's the Samsung.
I think you're absolutely correct.
Well, I
you
mean, but again, coming from family money, like
Yep.
he went to the same expensive school that Reed went to, and Dr. Banner and Otto Octavius. By the way, their entire graduating class is like just either supervillain or hero. You just have to pick one or the other.
But by baseline, they're billionaires regardless, whatever they are.
Yeah, exactly.
I think Kingpin may be our only bootstrap billionaire.
I mean, yeah, that's
Even we discussed offline Starfire, or what's her name? Like, she came from inheritance. Like,
She's a war profiteer.
What about Emma Frost?
Emma Frost
came from money. Yeah, she came from money.
Did she get her family money though? Because she came from money and then rejected the money. Did she end up getting it?
Depends. No, she ended up getting that money because there's also it does that kind of also depend on the timeline because it's been altered. So
yeah,
there's stories from both, and I'm trying to remember which ones are now canon. So that's my hard part.
I'm guessing she probably ended up getting the money. If not, she also has the telepath excuse. Well, I just made people do what I want because I'm a telepath and they gave me their monies.
Yeah.
What about Black Bolt?
I mean, that's just inheritance.
Yeah, that's royalty.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, same thing for Namor. Everyone kind of down the list after a certain point. Basically, yeah, there's all the Kingpin is the only bootstrappy one where you're like, oh no, he didn't come from money as far as I know.
He just took everybody else's.
Yeah. And just worked his way up.
So here's my question. If we're going to talk about Doom is,
Oh, sorry, real quick.
yeah,
Norman Osborn.
he didn't come from money?
Doesn't look like it.
Like Oscorp existed. Like by the time we had it, like when he was introduced, there was already the company. Like he's already running it. So
Yeah.
it's like I don't know if it's. I'd have to go back and see anything that we would have learned about his father would have been retcons at that point.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if we can say that it was all just like, oh, just hard work. I grew up in the gutters and now I'm here. I'd have to. He doesn't seem like the type who came from nothing. He seems. I don't know. I'd have to look into that as far as Norman Osborn.
I do think we should say Ken is a huge Spider-Man fan and is not going to give any of Spider-Man's enemies any credit whatsoever.
I mean, we gave it to Kingpin, so there's
Kingpin's Daredevil's enemy. Come on.
He started as Spider-Man. He's New York's enemy.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, he is not exclusively Spider-Man. Norman Osborn is pretty exclusively Spider-Man, except for like 10 minutes when he was running the country.
I still got my question about Doom though.
All right. Wait, what was your question about Doom? Let's try that one more time.
Well, because we haven't been listed at 100 billion for his like shitty patents and his ruling of a country, which is, where is it geographically on Earth?
I believe Eastern Europe.
Yeah, vaguely you're
you know, like you know that part on a map that anyone that was raised in the United States can't identify anything in? That one.
All the Afghanistans.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Okay. So just a quick Wikipedia search. In
Norman
his adulthood, Norman
poor.
Osborn. No, so his family, he came from money. They lost it, but while in college, his college professor helped him found a company that then helped him to regain his fortune. So it's like essentially
And
the money got him there.
Napster.
They lost it. Yes. He came from money. They lost it, and then he got it back by essentially ripping off his college professor.
His big idea was to drop the in front of Oscorp.
Yeah,
that was good. I'm proud of that.
You should
like, no more the. I'm not the artist. I'm just artist.
Exactly.
Start calling it Corp. My question is, what is Latvia? What is
Latveria.
Latveria? What is it like? What does it produce that would give him any type of financial standing in any global economic order?
It produced
Doom's famous peanut butter spread. I think it's well renowned.
A lot of there. Doombots. They are making Doombots like it's going out of style. You need a bot? Not after Doom? We got it for you. Fear of Doom.
That doesn't give you financial prowess.
Doesn't it though?
No. It needs to be money coming in, money going out.
Goons. Their money's in goons. They train the best goons around.
We need goons. Well, I loosened it up.
Can I ask you a serious question? Why are you so stupid? Incredibly, Bane is right. Not about the coffee maker, but we need goons.
If you want to hire
he
goons,
keeps getting foiled.
I mean, it's because he's sending off all the best. He's sending out all of the best and brightest.
You think that castle's going to staff itself?
That's why it's all Doombots, because anyone who he's trained is like, okay, go out and make something of yourself for Latveria.
He's exporting goons.
Goons.
I also didn't he like steal all the vibranium for a minute too?
I feel like T'Challa would have an issue with that.
Yeah, he did, and
he was like, cool.
Good on you.
Well, you gotta know when you beat.
You got me slipping.
Yeah, I don't.
How would you steal all the vibranium anyway? It's like you can just come with like a Santa Claus knapsack and be like, I'm out of here.
Big magnet.
Does Wolverine get attached to that magnet?
Every time.
Every time.
Gotcha.
You just hear him scream, flying through the air.
Every Doomsday, they just like bring the magnet out, show it around, like everyone look at the magnet.
This is what got us our wealth. Too bad he doesn't have any goons to protect it.
I think Doom's wealth is basically that generic. I am a ruler of a country, so I am automatically rich.
Wait, so this entire time you've been rich? I am a better than Sam.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
And then he danced.
And we loved it.
That's so good. So good.
Well, see, again, I think this again comes back. It will continue to keep coming back and back over and over again. Is that why even give him a dollar amount? Because it doesn't mean anything.
It means he can do what he wants. And I think at the end of the day, when we're talking about money in comics, a lot of it is just you have to have a lot to be able to at least wish away or overlook some of the things. Like Batman, a prime example, Tony Stark, like how Tony Stark goes through 17 Iron Man suits like every 3 story arc. Like just every 3 issue arc, he goes through 17 suits. Where he has to be rich to continue to afford to do that.
Yeah, but if you never explore dollar amount to his suits, what difference does it make? He could just be like vibranium. He could just be going out in the backyard, digging up a suit and putting it on.
I mean, he's not really a great inventor if he's doing that. And he's
Is he
just
the
growing
best
suits
inventor?
somehow.
No, Reed Richards is the best inventor. That's we discuss, and he's just
Yeah.
he's just
How
he's just
dare
bad
you?
with his money
Do you
because he's
guys-
just like,
do you- hey,
I don't know.
Ken, do you see Doom sitting right over there? He's so pissed when you say stuff like
Son
that.
of a bitch.
Richards.
You will not stand for the.
So
Doom's
I mean,
the best.
and it's just a matter of like, well, we don't want to deal with that. We don't want to deal with the idea like, oh, well, how does Tony fund this? He's got millions. What's that? We already had a joke about that from Austin Powers. Okay, it's billions. Fine.
Yeah.
We'll just move and you know, in 30 years they'll be like, oh, Tony Stark is a trillionaire. It's just like, this is insane. How do we? But
What's I'm saying? We've already jumped the shark. Why even concede the idea that there's a finite amount of money that he has? Because even as much as we think of like millions being like, you know, the end all be all, and billions being that, I mean, it's still a finite cap on it. At some point, it technically could run out.
Because
Why even bother? Why not just say he creates suits?
Because there's a storytelling device there. There have been interesting stories where they have taken the money away from these heroes and villains and made them go back to a more basic level.
and then they wipe it away in 2 years, and you're back
Yeah.
to like,
And the nature of
Yeah,
mainstream
nature comics.
comic book is you
Yeah.
have to go back to the status quo.
Well, my question is, all right, so say you take the money away,
Yeah.
and you take your money away from Tony and make him a normal person. What was the point of having him be the billionaire to begin with?
you gotta
So-
go, you gotta ask Stan Lee that.
Yeah.
Like, because the point was just so that he could reasonably explain away his adventures, so that
Yeah.
you weren't asking, wait, so how's he paying rent? Well, he's already rich. Oh, okay. Mhm. Shit, that's because somebody would be like, how does he afford these wonderful toys? And you're like, he's rich. That's
Yeah.
it's just that shorthand. There's no other. There's very
But
rarely.
But as Pat just said, he goes through suits, which are multi-billion-dollar investments themselves. Like if he were to, in an entire series, count the amount of suits he's destroyed, he'd be broke.
That's how rich he is.
Yeah, that's how rich he is.
It
It's
says
called
he's
magic.
80. It says he's $80 billion rich. That's
Yeah.
literally.
He would have
That's-
$400 billion if he stopped spending every damn dime on suits.
I feel like that would be, you know, a year's worth of suits, and he'd be like, "Ah, shit, Pepper, help me out here."
I do want to point out, by the way, this is a side note, but it did make me think of it when you pointed out he's $80 billion. I believe they punted on the who's richer, Batman or Iron Man question. And I think they're both at $80 billion.
Well, because they're analogous to each other. I mean,
I
They
thought that was interesting. Like, we're not even dealing with that. You're worth the same. It's fine. Whatever.
they don't want to bruise the egos.
That's well.
It's also two different writers too. The two articles that we were referencing are two separate writers, so
Fair enough.
they probably could have just been like, "Hey, Dave, what did you use? Okay, I'm using that too. Whatever." Or they came to the same conclusion.
I wonder if they're just sitting in the room. Is he richer than the Punisher? Put him up there.
Move that stat card up 2 clicks. All right, there we go.
Again, I'm always going to come back to this because I'm not as involved with the comics as you two are, but I'm like, I don't think you need to put a dollar amount to anything at this point anymore. I think we came up with the term off mic, Pat, which was what was it? Infinium?
Yes.
Infinium dollars.
But there is a reason you need to. And it's because of jackasses like us. Because we're gonna have that conversation. Like,
Yeah.
wait, how much is he actually worth? How can he do all this?
And that's the thing too. Like,
Right, but-
by the writers of the article, I'm very curious as where they got their numbers. Like, did they cite this specific issues where they listed that? I don't think they did. I think they're just like, I believe from all the bat cars that he has, he's got so many bat cars. Each bat car is worth this much. Like, you don't know. He's
Well,
paying underage workers to make those bat cars. So despite the quality being great, they're pretty. It didn't cost him anything.
Well, that's my point, is that if writers are never going to explore the money, why even use? Because they explore everything else. You've explored his powers, his alcoholism, his charity. For everybody else, you've explored everything except the money, essentially, in their character development. Like we don't even know what Wayne Tech does. definitively.
Yeah, they do tech. Get it together, man. It's in the name. Do you look at Apple and ask, what do they do? Do they give you apples? No, they give you gold in a phone.
Hey
Moving
guys,
on.
I would hungry for apples.
If Steve Jobs' name or his dad, it was like Dr. Jobs, he'd be like, well, how did I get from Dr. Jobs to an iPhone? There is a big jump. And that's where we get from Wayne Tech. Like his dad was a doctor. Where did Wayne Tech come from?
His uncle.
Money Wayne.
He does have an uncle in some continuities who was part of the.
Was his name
Wayne
Wayne?
His name was Tech Wayne, and he was that's where the name came from.
This guy's a son of a bitch liar.
I thought it was big Cash Wayne.
Yeah,
that would have actually made sense. But again, they explore everything except the money, and they just throw the money out there, as you said, or as I've said earlier, it's like a cudgel that really is probably one of the weakest points of any of the characters. Xavier, we know that he's independently wealthy, but from how does he maintain that? Especially when he's just building universities that get destroyed, jets that fall out of the sky, like uniforms cost money. I mean, like
no, but Xavier is the easiest. Mind control.
That would have
Xavier is the easiest one to figure out. Give me telepath.
More money.
Exactly. Like,
and I would totally
did I spend that?
I would totally be with you if they ever showed that once.
I mean
if they showed it once, that's all they need to show it too. Is it's just like then they just take that every time. Like he's always stealing. There's a comic. Maybe I'm mixing up different things. Where essentially he's like, here's a 20, and he hands them absolutely nothing, but he hands like a blank piece of paper, but they see it as a 20, so then they just go off on their thing, and he's just like, I'm.
That was the Losers.
Was that? Oh, is that what it was? Thank you. No, it wasn't. It wasn't the Losers. It was Push.
Thank you, Push. I got my Chris Evan quasi comic vehicles confused.
Not quasi. Those are both comic vehicles.
Yeah,
they both had comics, and they're both
That's
like,
right.
Yeah. So
how about quasi vehicles? That better?
There you go.
Yeah.
And see if they'd done that in how long has Xavier been a character?
I mean,
60-something years. Yeah.
With the sheer volume of evil shit
80s.
Xavier has done, they could just throw that another log on there,
And I would appreciate that because again, it gives us some context into the realities of money in this world. But again, they do. We've gotten everything about him, his family, his son, like all of his wants, desire, everything about him is a fleshed out character, except how these people make and maintain money in this world. So why even use it?
Because you need to explain it away. Like it's.
But I'm saying you're not explaining it away. You leave it as the biggest void ever, and this is why we've been able to talk about it for 2 hours because it goes nowhere.
I mean, it's the biggest void ever because it's the topic we're trying to build on, but it's not a void to the writers are getting away with it. They've always gotten away with it, and there's not really the fraction of people who are asking are still buying comics. So it's not like it's not a void that's losing anyone.
Exactly. My question is, if it doesn't lose anyone or gain anyone, why even use it?
I don't know what the answer is you're looking for. It's because it doesn't hurt the story. It doesn't help the story. It just is. It's basic building blocks. Like you're just gonna have to have that because someone's gonna ask, well, how does he afford this? He's rich.
Yeah.
All right. That's all I needed to hear. Moving on.
They've got to be rich so that they don't have to basically pull the SpiderMan like, shit, I was gonna go fight crime, but rent's due.
Yeah. Rent's due, and I'm running out of web fluid, so I need to pay the rent. I need to buy more web fluid. Otherwise, I don't get to be Spider-Man. I don't get to do what I do. So he's got to, go out and go to the Daily Bugle and sell more photos, or go to university and be a TA so that he can pay for his college tuition.
Or maybe just patent the goddamn web fluid and sell that because that would be $1 billion idea.
Yeah, but then you'd have a bunch of Spider-Man out there.
No, because
you can't do the other stuff.
But they could at least pin him to a wall annoyingly when he's floating around. There'd be some kid out there like, oh, look what I got. And now he's stuck to a wall.
That's in, I want to say in some What If or one other alternate timeline, he essentially sells it to the police to use as.
Great.
It wasn't during the
wasn't the smartest idea.
Yeah, it wasn't the 2010s and later where you're like, oh wait, I should really think about this. You should have thought about it long ago, but still, at the time it was just like, oh, it's a better deterrent than a gun. So I would much rather that cops have web shooters right now than guns. So let's give him that. Stop what you're doing, webbed. All right, well you're stopped and you're still alive. So congratulations.
Now I'm going to pull out my gun because the Second Amendment.
You're so much easier to shoot now. Thank goodness.
Thanks, Parker.
So yeah, that's to me that would be the better thing there. Is like if you can reevaluate, like, well, why isn't this person using this to get rich? There's that aspect of it. But as far as like why are we making characters rich? It's like because it gives them access to whatever they want, and it's also that wish fulfillment. Like I wish I could put on an armor suit worth billions, go around blasting people and being a hero. Like
yeah, but again, and maybe I'm just beating a dead horse, but it doesn't matter how much the suit costs. It's the suit itself. We don't see the R&D for the suit. We don't see any of that. Like the dollar amount for the suit doesn't matter, and he blows it up anyway. It's like wearing a pair of sweatpants from Walmart for him. It doesn't matter what it is as long as it's on him.
The sweatpants don't have,
arc
repulsors.
reactors.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is the value of the suit is irrelevant because he doesn't. I mean,
well, no, because not everyone
destroyed.
can go out and go get those sweatpants. They're especially Tony Stark sweatpants. Like you can't just go out and get that armor because it does cost money. Like it's even if
not in his world though.
No, but in his world, like to him, yes, because he is a billionaire, $1 billion suit is not a big ordeal. But because he's still in a world where money matters and costs of suits are still there, you can't just Joe Blow can't go out and just grab a stealth armor or a Silver Centurion at the local Walmart and throw that on.
No,
like,
but they can make pretty equivalent replicas on their own. Like we've seen characters, enemies, villains make suits, and they have been billionaires.
Right,
they
but
stole it.
They stole the tech. They stole this. They had to. It wasn't that they're just. But again, they're not going to Walmart. As per the sweatpants comparison, they still have to go out and make the sweatpants somehow, and that's usually with stolen goods and whatnot. So there is still a value to it that is within the world that they exist.
But I'm saying the value to him, not to the world itself. Like
no, but he exists in the world. He doesn't exist in a vacuum where it's just like, oh, I can just create. He's not.
But he does though. That's the point. Is that if he can continue to make endless amounts of suits, it's the equivalent of buying a $2-3 pair of pants for a normal person. Like it's not going to break the bank.
But they have to show him in relation to other people. The world around him reacts to what he does. Like part of the comic is seeing everyone's reaction to him.
And normal people.
But no one. But I'm saying,
normal people exist in the world too. It's like it's not just him
all right, well, let's
and
put it this
other
way.
billionaires.
If Dr. Doom were to meet up with Iron Man, would he say that's an impressively expensive suit? He wouldn't give a shit about the suit. No one's impressed.
Actually, in the infamous Iron Man, Dr. Doom was like, "This is an impressive piece of armor. It's well crafted, and he sees the value and the quality of the suit." And part of that, part of seeing that is that he's made his own $1 billion suit of armor and has said, "Okay, you know what? Good on you. This is well done."
For the most part, most people who see the Iron Man suit don't care what the value of the suit is.
But they're cognizant of the value of the suit.
Yeah,
no, we're assuming they are. They don't give a shit. That's what I'm saying. Like we're imprinting because we are cognizant of it because we live in the real world.
But we are also like the rest of the people within the world, the non-superpowered ones are representations of us.
Okay, let's just use the MCU as a comparison, looking at Iron Man 2. Others are trying to duplicate it. It's costing their countries billions of dollars to try and create it, and they can't because they don't have the technology. So it's a shared cost. So everyone is aware that it is not a pair of sweatpants. It is a $1 billion suit of armor that he has the means to create.
My analogy for the sweatpants is that he sheds the armor as though the value for him, independent of the rest of the world, is to him. It isn't like he's cherishing the armor that he can't replenish.
Yeah, because he doesn't value the money.
That's my point.
Because
he doesn't value the money or necessarily the suit because he can literally have a second suit made hours later.
Because he is a billionaire, though. It's not because
the suit itself is technically billions. So if he has more than one or two, he'd be going broke if one of them were to be destroyed.
But he's that rich. It doesn't matter.
That's my point, is that we just keep escalating the amount of richness to compensate for the suits that he's destroying. It loses its value.
We don't know if he's recycling these or reusing. Like he's follows the reuse cycle. He reuses that helmet and puts it into the Silver Centurion, and then puts it in the 2020 suit.
Like his suits get blown up across football fields.
But the helmets always kind of look alike.
Yeah, but then he also has the technology to then go back and gather those resources and you reuse them. Yeah,
giant magnet.
Giant magnet. All those Doombots.
Yeah.
Giant magnet.
The Doom magnet.
Even if so, I'm still curious as to what the I still haven't hit on what the argument is to understand where the problem is. He can just keep making billions and billions of suits. So why does it matter? If you're saying why put a number on it, you should go talk to the writers of the list more than us, because we're just like, there has to be some type of idea that he is independently wealthy to no regard whatsoever, that he can do whatever he pleases, and that's why he's made rich. He's made rich so he can do whatever he pleases.
And that's
as far as it needs to go. It's like, are you rich enough to be a hero? Yes, done. Carry on.
And the only reason it went from millions to billions is because our perception of what it is to be independently wealthy enough to do whatever you want has changed, because we have billionaires.
But we also exist in a comic book world where there is mutant abilities and magic. Like Zatanna could be just as wealthy as he could, and you don't have to explain any of that. It's just fucking magic. So why create the financial structure for Iron Man, for any character, when it could just be magic? It could just be fantasy.
But that's not the reality of the world, though. Like, there are characters who are magic and there's characters who are science. Like they both exist. And if you want magic Iron Man, you can do that. I mean, but that's not the story we're telling.
But you built in a financial structure that you don't follow through on.
We don't have to follow through on anything. It's magic story. It's storytelling. You just follow through on what you want to focus on.
So why create that, though? Is my point. Is that's always been my crux of this argument, is that we assign not even a single dollar amount, like, oh, he's 90 billion, he's 100 billion. We just say that they're billionaires so that they can do whatever they want. If we said that they were magical, they could still do whatever they want.
Right, but for this story, we said he's a billionaire. So what's it's just, that's the story we're telling. That's the bare minimum of, like, what's the story we're telling? We're telling the story about the rich billionaire who's flies around in a suit of armor.
Okay.
I mean, you can do the magical, you can do Doctor Strange and have the magic. And he's also, hypothetically too, he's not on that list, but all those ancient artifacts have got to be worth something.
Yeah.
Like, to some buyer. So why isn't he on the list? But it's just because that's not the story that anyone's wanted to tell yet. Although at this point, why have we not? Because at what point does the Census Bureau come to his door and be like, hey, wait a minute, knock, knock, knock. How many people live here? This place is pretty big. Let's start looking into some stuff. Like, when did Doctor Strange get audited? After he was a doctor, who, by the way, would have also been well off, and he's pretty well off in the movie as well. And then spends all his money to get his hands back, but then he's like, magic hands. So I don't know. That to me is a more interesting idea. It's like, I don't think anyone's explored how rich Doctor Strange is. We've talked about how rich Tony Stark is many times over. Many other people have. No one's talked about how rich Doctor Strange is.
Because of magic. That's my point. It doesn't matter. You can just say magic and you can get away with everything else that Tony Stark does, any character does.
If you do that,
but why are you upset when they do it? Why are you upset when they do it about Tony, but not about the magic one? Because
magic implies that there is no financial structure for it. It just can be. But when you start to say he has to have a business that then generates money so that he can then create things to spend the money, and that this money is endless, you've already set 5 different steps versus magic.
That's because you're implying your own ideas of
I'm
magic.
not implying they created that world.
No. Let me finish my point. You're implying the ideas that there's just magic is magic, but then depending on the writer, there's the law of equivalent exchange of, like, it's not just magic. It's energy cannot be dissipated or destroyed. It has to come from somewhere. It has to be transmuted into something. It has to, there is a love, like I said, I just used the term from Full Metal Alchemist, equivalent exchange. So you can't just turn this table into air. It somehow will have to change and that matter shifts. So it's not just gone in an instant. It's either teleported someplace else or something. So there's a shift in a cost associated with magic for some writers if they want to. There's a storytelling device there.
And
the same can be said for Doctor Strange.
And you've already thoroughly explained that device more so than where and how long Stark's money runs.
Because we know what money is. Money allows people to kill people in the streets and walk away from it. Like that's what money and power. Like we know money is almost more powerful than magic in that it's real.
Right, but for these adventures that they're going on, it cannot be infinite.
I don't know why not.
Because
like,
money's finite. That's one thing we do know.
I don't know if we know that.
Yeah, I was gonna say money, and also money is just a construct of our own. Yeah. Like, oh, it's backed by gold. Is it though? Do we have all that gold in the depository?
No, money. That's ours is backed by our credit. That's
right, exactly. And that's my point. Money is not finite. Money is not finite. It's whatever we want to call it. Like, here's $1 billion for this. It doesn't matter. It's all made up too. So Tony Stark can make as many suits as he wants. But and then fly him into the sun and make $1 billion more. Can
we at least agree that it's transactional?
I guess. And then he just
has to be, otherwise it is a replacement for services and goods and barter system, right?
I mean, can you explain Dogecoin to me real quick, and then we can also discuss how money is real and can it?
Dogecoin isn't real. No one's ever cashed out of a Dogecoin.
Yes.
Yeah. So really, money is not real. You can just be like, I'm Tony Stark, and I'm gonna hack my bank account. I now have a $5 jabillion. Yes, $1 jabillion. Take that, computer. And he's now making more suits of armor because he made $1 jabillion.
When you have $1 jabillion, so why not just say magic in there?
Because he just hacked it. It's hacking.
It's a different type of magic.
Yeah.
It's the magic of money.
It's the magic of money. It allows you to do whatever you please.
So there's magic.
But the magic is ethereal. I've never studied magic. I've studied money, and you can just.
Have you though? Because you seem to be as broke as the rest of us.
I'm more broke than the rest of you. Okay, I'm well aware of this.
Just because you study something doesn't mean you have it. Sometimes you study it out of longing.
Yeah,
I feel like you weren't really studying at that point.
Kareem, I think you just need to read Dungeons and Dragons comics. I'm getting to that point. Like you need to focus on the magic, man.
I think comic writers need to and quit dropping the whole facade of money.
I think their time spent is on other aspects than what you're focused on.
The aspect that they introduced.
Well, I mean, you chose, much like the Apple thing, you chose to buy the comic. You chose to join the discussion. You're coming to the table. The table didn't like thrust itself in front of you. You're like, I want to talk about this. You came to us, sir.
Yeah.
Welcome to the game.
Fair enough. You're absolutely correct.
And you came to the table and said, I want to talk about this. And they're like, but we're talking about lasers and punching people. What about how much did that laser cost? What? Do you want to? We're going to shoot the laser now. I want to talk about what it costs. You know what? Maybe you should go read it. Go to DC. We'll talk. DC will handle you. And Marvel's like, all right, guys, time to make a laser punching book. This is Laser Fist. His power is fists and lasers.
For some reason, he's still more financially well off than Spider-Man.
Yeah, pretty much.
Well, I think you're right. Again, they introduced it. I wanted to explore it.
I can guarantee you, with the current climate of the world, as it were, it will be explored the next 5 years. Someone is going to do a book that is going to be a deep dive into the economics of one of these billionaire heroes. And it's going to end up being a story where it turns out all of their funding is based off the machinations of some evil supervillain that has turned them into slumlords or something like that. I guarantee if that story hasn't been written, it is being written.
Well, I mean, the question is, will it be written by the big two? That because I mean, yeah, you can go to Image, but to move the needle, you've got to get
Yeah.
at least, I guess, one of the big three. Because at this point, Image has quite the hold. More so than Dark Horse, I think, because Dark Horse is predominantly a lot of licensed book as far as their biggest sellers.
And they lost some of their biggest ones recently. So
yeah, exactly. But like the point being is like to make a splash so that we hear about it. Like I could go out tomorrow and write that book, but doesn't mean a thing. It's got to be the big two or Image to be like, oh hey, Rick Remender is doing his new series, Black Cash, because he also did Black Science and a couple other books too. So I went with that name. And so he'll have some book on the charts and like, oh, it's talking about this.
I will say yes. I think it will. The big two will do. Now they're not going to dive that deeply into it. It's not going to be. It's not going to get into the real nitty gritty of it. But I would wager in the next few years, one of the big two, I bet Marvel, if I had to guess, given the way DC's going, is gonna do a story, because actually Tony Stark is perfect for this, because he's always turns out like, oh, it turned out all your money's gone because it was all being funneled in to this guy's account. Hydra did it. Always Hydra.
I feel like Hydra is going to be replaced by NFT.
That's how Hydra funds itself.
AIM brought to you by NFTs.
Yeah.
Dogecoin and NFTs. That's
I feel
how.
like early buyers of NFTs were like COVID.